The flaws of Monte Carlo simulations. Oh man, I've been wanting to read this to you guys for a long time. I keep forgetting. I came across the guy who wrote this article, my man Jim Otter, Otar. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. Retirement Optimizer, a long time ago. I read this, 2006. Man, the skeptic I am, this hit me like a ton of bricks. And on top of that, reading Nassim Nicholas Taleb and just my man Benoit Mandelbrot. I just get so engulfed in this kind of stuff. And here we are, 2019. Monte Carlos are still our go-to, and I'm gonna share you why that can be kind of scary. Actually, unfortunately, I don't have a solution for it. Jim has a little bit of one, and this is dated quite some time ago, but highly suggest you look at some of his stuff here. The guy's just a freaking genius. It'd be sweet to get him on a podcast one day. Just everything this guy writes is just phenomenal. But I'll never forget coming across this because back then, I got notes over there. We had it was linear, all right? So your retirement at 10%. This is what Dave Ramsey uses, which is nuts. I get a 12% rate of return. All right, Dave, well, I have $1 million. How much can I take out of my account? Well, if you get a 12% rate of return, you can take $80,000 out a year and never run out of money. You're like, but it doesn't work like that, Dave. And you know that. Why would you even insinuate that? And just watch his radio show. Or his YouTube thing, when someone says, can I retire on $1 million? He says that, and you'll see a long comment I made that I drew it out. It's freaking nuts. But anyway, that was the old days. We don't use that anymore. I hope. I have a sneaky suspicion more people do than I would I'd care to know, frankly. And I hope you aren't. Please, I know for a fact some of you are, and that's painful to me because what that says is if you think you can average 8% a year and you take 6% a year off your portfolio, you're actually putting 2% a year back to add onto your capital, and you're not doing that. Nothing from the sort because it's not linear. Markets are like this. All right, so let's look at my man Jim Otar. I'm not sure how to say this. And anyway, so it was funny because this article in Monte Carlo, the negative stuff of Monte Carlo never really hit hard. It's strange. Some things, it's just weird how like the Bill Bengen 4% rule, that hit hard for some reason. Don't know why. I like it, but I just find it's odd that hit so hard and other models don't. Jim's stuff on Monte Carlo, it hit probably too soon, frankly, because that was right when people were starting to get out of the linear results of financial planning, retirement planning, 8% linear, and do the random sequence of events. And so because of that, people were bought hook, line, and sinker on Monte Carlo. So he tried to kill it off in the cradle. The cradle, yeah, right. Anyway, but cradle? No, I don't think it's the cradle. The crib. Kill it off the crib. Isn't there a Jewish song with cradle? We had some Jewish neighbors, and they would sing the cradle song to us. Wasn't that what it was? I forgot what it was. Good song. But he tried to, and I don't want to say try to kill it off in the crib. It wasn't like he was killing it off. He just tried to make it realistic for regular people because he says, is it good for your client? All right, so let's talk about this. The Monte Carlos. Oh, don't forget to smash. I always put smash at the end. Please smash the like button. It does help YouTube say, this guy Josh is popular among some people who like financial stuff or other things like climate change. But certainly financial planning, so they'll push it in front of other people. Now, you might smash the dislike button if you don't like my take on climate change, because I don't, trust me, if you are a climate change alarmist or climatistas, like I call you, you might want to smash the don't like button. Please do. Don't tell anybody, my friends. If they smash the dislike button, that actually helps me. So don't. So if you're here and you don't like my take on climate change or even being a Christian, because apparently I'm from the Christian right, smash the dislike button. For all of you other people, smash the like button. But the people who like this stuff, don't tell those other people that smashing the dislike button actually helps me. Okay, let them pretend like they're showing me by disliking this, and don't tell them. If they write negative comments on in the thing here down below, that actually helps me too. Keep that to ourselves. Hopefully they'll continue to write negative comments, how I'm an imbecile, I'm part of the Christian right, how they can't like someone who likes the Trumps or something like that, because that would be good. But don't let them know that, okay? Because we can get something over on them. All right, so let's read this. The Monte Carlo simulators are becoming more and more popular. How good are their forecasts? Better learn their flaws before it's too late. Again, like I said, he was trying to kill off the baby in the crib before it became too enormous, which it is now, unfortunately. Since the last bear market, actually, hold on just 1 second here. Just remember that this was written in 2006. If you would, give me a thumbs up, actually. Do smash it, or at least put in the comments if the speaker is coming out from both the left and the right. Sometimes when I use this mic I'm using here, it just comes out on the left. And if that's true, we don't want that. So if it's coming out on both, give me a thumbs up in the show. Actually, put a comment, say both or something like that, because I need to know that for sure. Because on my phone, it sounds fine. All right, since the last bear market, more advisors are switching from the standard retirement calculators to Monte Carlo simulators to forecast portfolio asset values. What makes a Monte Carlo different from a standard retirement calculator is that it adds random fluctuations to a steady growth of the portfolio. The user selects a baseline, assumed base growth rate, and a standard deviation from that baseline. The model then runs thousands or millions, if you choose, of projections by randomly varying this baseline. Finally, it reports range and probabilities of these projections. Monte Carlo is a step forward from the standard retirement calculator. It brings into the open the reality that markets do not grow in a straight line, but they do fluctuate over time. But that does not mean we should ignore shortcomings. Flaw 1. The first flaw is how it generates randomness. The random is generated using a distribution curve. There are many types of distribution curve, and he talks about all of them here. Geometric, exponential, binomial, long, all that stuff. We'll just keep going. Which one fits best to retirement planning? Which one's the best for accumulation planning? Which distribution curve should your Monte Carlo use? These are some important questions to ask. Typical distribution curves: normal or Gaussian. All right, and Benoit, Mandelbrot, Nicholas. Nassim Nicholas Taleb, they talk a lot about Gaussian bell curves essentially, but here's a normal one, what Jim's going to talk about here. The uniform distribution curve generates random numbers with equal frequency. For example, if the baseline is 8% and the range is between 16 minus and 16 plus, then the probability of a 15% growth rate projection is the same at 5%. That's exactly right. So you're going to have the same probability of 15 or 5 or 9 or anything like that on either side of the equation because it's a uniform curve. It's not even really a curve, it's a box. The normal, also known as a Gaussian or the bell curve, is based on generating more of the numbers that are closer to the baseline and fewer that are further from the baseline. For example, if the 8% in the stated range is between 16 plus and 16 minus, then a 10% growth rate is forecasted a lot more than a 3% growth rate. So let's just say, what do you say, 8%? Baseline's 8. That's a red. We'll just say that's the red. It looks like it's not quite there. But anyway, let's just pretend that's the red. You're going to have more likely to be 8 or 10 on right here than will be 3, because 3 will be way down here. 10 will be right there. That makes sense. So what happens is you have more. Once you have your standard baseline, it's more likelihood to be within that standard baseline than further removed. That's a Gaussian, the bell curve. But the reality is the distribution curve is significantly different than these idealized distribution curves show. Not only that, the market history shows that the distribution curve changes its shape over time. Some of these changes are a flattening of the curve, shifting towards the left with the tail ends flapping. Deviations from normal distribution curve create higher incidences of deviance from the real life outcomes. Exactly right. It's just because you have this curve now doesn't mean it's going to stay like that. Many factors affect these deviations: the amount of withdrawal as a percentage of the assets, time passed since the beginning of retirement, the choice of asset allocation, just to name a few. Figure 2, this is figure 1. Yeah, figure 2 shows the actual distribution curve of a portfolio after 5 and 20 years. As time passed, the shape of the distribution curve changed significantly. So look at that. After 5 years, look at that. And after 20 years, that's nothing at all like this right here. Nothing. Look at that, man. Here you got the average is way out here, way beyond the precipice, I guess. When the distribution curve used in the Monte Carlo model does not match the reality of the entire retirement period, the resulting simulations will be actually significantly different from market history. The second flaw, look at that. I mean, here you're saying our mean, all right, that's our average is up here, but you're not. I mean, the vast majority of time after 20 years are well to the left of the mean. That's interesting. That's freaking awesome. And here you don't have a standard bell curve. You got it falling right there, and then it jumps up here, then it goes down there. That's interesting. The second flaw is that the outcome it generates at random ignores the effects of secular trends. Now secular means long term, by the way. When we look at history, we observe the markets are random in the short term, cyclical in the midterm, and trending in the long term, as depicted in Figure 3. So here's a short term. Oh yeah, random in the short term, cyclical in the midterm, and trending in the long term. So here's the short term; it goes up and down. Midterm, it goes up and goes down. Long term, though, it kind of continues to grow up or go up in the long term, whereas the short term is just bouncing all over the place. In reality, for proper simulation model, we must distinguish between the three separate trend regimes: bullish, sideways, and bearish. So we got sideways, we got bullish, we got bearish, sideways, bullish, sideways, bullish. You don't have much downturn on the long term, that's for sure. Therefore, you need at least three separate distribution curves working at different times, as depicted in Figure 4. So he's got these right here: bearish 20% of the time, sideways 0% of the time, and bullish 15% of the time. This is interesting what he talks about. If the long-term trend is bullish or sideways, the outcome may be stuck within that particular distribution curve for up to 20 years. Consequently, what happens in practice is users of Monte Carlo increase the range of outcomes from, say, 15% to 30%. This broad brushes all trends to cover the entire range. Doing so only masks the problem. It does not solve it. Monte Carlo simulation is based on statistical randomness around a predefined straight line. That is hugely important. You're predefining the mean, essentially. You're saying the mean is going to be this, and we're going to have some randomness around the mean, but the mean is we're establishing that today. What if that is not the mean? I completely agree that increasing the envelope of outcomes does not make it more accurate. It doesn't. It just says, so basically what they're saying is we have this mean of 8%, we'll just say. We're going to have 15% on either side. That'll be one standard deviation. But to be all-encompassing, we'll make the standard deviation 30. But it's still, the mean is still there. We've already predefined the mean, but there's no evidence to say that will be the mean going forward because we don't know what the future will hold. Increasing the envelope of outcomes does not make it more accurate. If the model does not fit well, then running 10 million simulations instead of 10,000 does not make the results more accurate. I could not agree more. The third flaw of Monte Carlo is that it ignores the correlation between market events. This is huge. When we study market history, the sequence of market events are not random, but rather correlated. For example, a high inflation environment eventually causes the short-term interest rates to rise, which can have bearish effects on stock and bond markets or vice versa. Random treatment of different asset classes and inflation is not congruent with what actually happens in life. Yet exactly what happens in the Monte Carlos. It will pick up random high inflation and high equity growth and bond returns all in the same run. I kind of disagree with that because just high inflation doesn't necessarily correlate with high interest rates. And then high interest rate or low interest rates do not necessarily lead to high inflation. You just don't see it. Going back to the economics Phillips curve, the Phillips curve said low unemployment inherently leads to high interest rates and high inflation, or high inflation then high interest rates. And we just don't see that. That's no longer true. That's completely. It's kind of like CO2 leads to warm, increasing heat on the Earth's surface. It's just you can make that correlation. Sure, you can say we have 400 parts per million. We have a little bit higher temperatures today. Thus, you can make that correlation, but the causation is not what leads to the temperatures. If you could do that, you would say, why did we have the medieval warm period? Why did we have the huge temperatures in the 30s worldwide? Worldwide, the CO2 is less than 300 parts per million. So we had huge temperature changes in the medieval warm period, huge temperature changes in the 30s, hell, even the late 1890s and the 1910s, huge temperature changes, more so than we're seeing today, and CO2 is low then. So again, can that lead to the other? Maybe. Is there a causation because of that? No, it's just not. And the same thing here. Inflation, high interest rates. On top of that, low inflation, low unemployment, high inflation, high interest rates. You can't. It's a mishmash, man. It's like a freaking thing going like this. All right. Flaw 4. The fourth flaw of Monte Carlo is the unrealistic sequence of outcomes. I agree. This one is a big one. I thought these other ones. But anyway, in real life, usually during the last 1/3 of a secular bull trend, good news begets more good news. The index moves up higher just because many bet that it'll continue to move higher. On the other hand, when a bad bear market starts, bad news begets more bad news. I completely, unequivocally agree with that. As I said in my last video, there is momentum, and momentum keeps until for some reason it doesn't keep anymore. We don't know why it doesn't, but absolutely 100% unequivocally, there is something called momentum. The problem is you can't bank your retirement on that because it will continue until it doesn't. Thus, these create what is known as a fat tail ends on the distribution curve. Markets digest the speculative energy of bull runs in one of two ways. Either a sharp sell-off like high waterfalls that may last 3 to 4 years from 1929, or multi-cycle sideways market like the meandering river that may last as much as 20 years. That's what's happened since the recorded market history. Monte Carlo ignores this. They will rarely produce multi-year back-to-back streak or multiple bear bull market outcomes. That's what happens in real life. The flaw is most obvious when we look at the distribution retirement portfolios using actual market history. The median line, where half the portfolios do better and half do worse, is a lot closer to the bottom decile, the bottom 10%, than the top decile. Keep that in mind. The median, where half do better, half do worse, is closer to the bottom than the top. And that just makes sense because the bottom, we know for a fact you can't go below zero. Where on the top, you can go up and up and up. So inherently, that makes sense. I mean, you got the medians right here. The top is literally unlimited. It's an infinite top. The bottom, we know, will stop at zero. So inherently, that makes sense to me. I'm surprised he didn't say that. But I thought it was kind of interesting nonetheless. Even though the probability of top decile outcome is identical to the probability of a bottom decile. I agree that to some degree. I mean, come on, man. I mean, we know for a fact the bottom is here. We have a floor. The top is literally to the heavens. So you're closer, yes, to the bottom because the bottom has a floor than you are to the top, even though they both have the same probability in this kind of Monte Carlo simulation. But I just find that a little bit, I don't know, a little bit, what's the word? Not disingenuous. I'm surprised he didn't recognize that. In other words, the path to unlucky outcome, bottom decile, and a lucky outcome, top decile after retirement, is an effect that must not be ignored. It takes only a little push of small adverse events to turn a median portfolio into an unlucky one. However, it takes a whole lot of large favorable events to turn a median portfolio into a lucky one. I guess I kind of get that. He's saying just one big war and your median portfolio is now unlucky, but avoiding a war doesn't in of itself make your median portfolio lucky. That's actually a good point. That's a good point. I take back a little bit what I just said. I think that's actually a pretty good point. The market. So here's the figure. Yeah. So here you got the median right here. But see, I still kind of. We'll just go with it. All right, so here's the median in red. So you see the median is a heck of a lot closer to the unlucky portfolio, the bottom decile. It's a lot further away from the top decile. But again, the reason is because the bottom decile it flatlines right there. It can't go lower than that. Where this one can continue to go up. But I get his point to some degree. I still challenge that a little bit. I compare the outcomes of Monte Carlo, and this is before 2007, 8, 9, by the way. I compare the outcomes of a Monte Carlo simulator with actual market history using the same case. I use the following tables to compare the probability of depletion. This is where I saw this. I said, whoa, we've been doing it wrong again, because we've been doing it wrong before this too. And so what we got here is we got years after retirement. So 20 years after retirement, the Monte Carlo simulation said you had a 14% chance of decline of running out of money. The actual market history is a 36%. 25 years after retirement, Monte Carlo only gave you a 1 in 3 roughly. Actual history was 2 in 3. 30 years after retirement, Monte Carlo just gave you a little bit above half of actually run out of money. Actual history was 86%, and that's a pretty big difference because of the real life events of the markets. They don't just fall. They're not random. They are not random. They do follow what happened in the past. In the final analysis, most Monte Carlo simulations forecast outcomes that are too optimistic. I completely agree with that. That's the reason why I designed and developed the Otar retirement calculator, which is based on actual market history. But that's another story. Does he have it here? Oh yeah, order the calculator. Ooh. If you insist on using a simulator instead of actual historical data, then use a better simulator. For that, you would need to start with the bigger picture. Here's what the U.S. markets did in the last century. He talks just secular 1920 to 1900, 1900 to 1920. 21 years in length. 1937 to 1948, 12, 1966 to 1981, 60. You can see all this right here. So here we go. Based on this picture, here are the basic tenets of the better Monte Carlo simulation. A secular bull or sideways market lasted as long as 20 years. A secular bear market lasted as long as 4. Each bull market was followed by a secular bear, and again, secular is long term, or sideways market. Approximately, the annual average growth rate was 15% during a secular bull, 2% during a sideways market, and a negative 30% during a secular bear. Approximately, the average inflation was 2% during a secular bull, 6% during a secular sideways, and negative 6% during a bear. And the real Monte Carlo should affect the simulation has 2 layers. The first layer selects a secular trend at random. The only rule at this first level is that the same secular trend cannot be repeated. A secular bull trend can only be followed by a secular sideways trend or secular bear. That's pretty interesting. Once a secular trend is selected, its duration is set for the simulation. A secular bull or bear, or a secular bullish or sideways lasts 20 years, where a secular bear lasts 4. Then he uses this. A second layer of the simulator is identical to what is being used today, however, with different base rates for each secular trend. Using following base assumed growth rate inflation. If the first layer of simulation is a secular bull trend, then the second layer is set to average growth of 15% with 2% inflation. Let's see. In 20 years. Sorry, you can read all this. I found that very, very interesting anyway. But I wanted to show you, and I guess he didn't have it here. I guess it was this guy right here. Yeah, the lucky, unlucky, and the median. I thought that's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at his calculator. I don't know if he's still, 2019. Sweet. He's still selling it. Download the trial. Make sure it works to your full satisfaction on your computer. No technical support is available other than what's posted on the website. All software delivery is electronic, no CD or shipped. I don't think he uses it on the Chromebook. I remember looking at this a few months ago and not... yeah, it only works on PC, Windows, Excel. All right, so it only works on Windows and Excel. It's not designed to run on Apple. That stinks. I wonder if you can run it on Chromebook. I have to email them on that because that'd be sweet. Download the trial version. Let's see. Oh, man, I wish you had a sample of this. Feature comparison sheet. There's the calculator. Okay? Anyway, I don't know, man. Wish you had a video on what this looks like. All right, so his cash flow worksheet, Canadian cash flow worksheet, U.S. So Jim's good. He actually, let's go back here. I want to show you something that I'm probably going to buy here today, as a matter of fact. Is going to be this book right here. He has his book right there, 525-page book on retirement income planning based on non-Gaussian philosophy, including numerous work examples. Paperback version is sold out. Wow, man, it's easy to make it. But anyway, and let's. How much does that sucker cost? Oh, $10. Yeah, okay. PDF file for freaking $5.99. Oh, yeah, dude, that's worth. All right, so anyway, a lot of good stuff in here. You'd be crazy for not investing in this. I'm not going to do the worksheet, the calculator. If someone would, show us how it works, man. I'm not going to do it. But I am going to buy his book. But if you want to buy his calculator, man, I think you should. I mean, I don't think it costs that much, $15 or something like that. But that was pretty good to me. So if you do buy it, please share your comments below for sure. I'd love to hear this. So unveiling the retirement myth, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm a big fan of Jim. I don't think he does. Let's see if he's got more live present. Oh, yeah, 2019. Oh, he is doing it. So he's coming to Toronto or Ottawa. No, Toronto, Thunder Bay, Vaughan, Hamilton, Ottawa. You remember Thunder Bay? That's a Rob Lowe movie. That movie's good. Rob Lowe, when he played hockey. I can't believe I can't. Man, I'm getting old, man. I cannot believe I can't remember that. Rob Lowe hockey book. Young Blood, that's what it's called. Click here for past presentations. Look at all these man. This dude's freaking everywhere. Look at this guy. My man Jim tearing it up. Let's see his story here. Anyway, so a lot of good stuff by my man Jim Otar. The trigonometry of retirement income. Oof. Doesn't get much more exciting than that, does it? Anyway, lots of stuff here, and a lot of this is for free. So definitely go online and order. All right, I hope you like this. Again, the Flaws in Monte Carlo. Don't forget to smash, and we'll see you next time. Thanks now.